Game 5 looms on Friday for the Seattle Mariners. We got to talk about games 3 and 4 in Detroit. The Mariners and the Tigers split those games. We're going to talk about what happened in each game before we give you guys our FanDuel favorites for Game 5. And then, of course, we'll talk about Game 5, where Tarik Skubal is going to be on the mound for the Detroit Tigers. As of right now, no starter announced for the Mariners. Sounds like it won't be for a little while, but we're going to get into all that and more in this episode of the Hit It Here podcast, episode 237 of the podcast to be exact, part of the Bleav Network and presented by FanDuel. And this is the Josh Naylor's babies
Yeah.
episode of the podcast. I don't know the kid's name, but allegedly it sounds like they had the baby, so that's very, very cool. And Josh was in there. You know, for every game so far in this division series. So very cool to see. But yeah, just we're recording this very shortly after Game 4,
Yep.
and a lot of you were there in the live watch along, so you guys know that we're feeling some sort of way. Um, but yeah, Joe, just where's your head at as we stare down the barrel of Game 5?
Well, I would have felt a lot better last night had we recorded a podcast then because we got to start with game 3 where the offense looked like the offense we expected on the road, where they explode for 8 runs. Eugenio Suarez checks in with a home run. Cal Raleigh with a home run. JP Crawford checks in with a home run. Like production up and down the lineup for the most part. I mean, Julio goes hitless. Naylor goes hitless. Polo goes hitless. But for the most part, everyone kind of checked in with some sort of production in game 3. And Logan Gilbert did exactly what you needed him to do in this one, where it gives you a chance for a series clinching moment in game 4 because 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned, 7 strikeouts is most definitely enough in a playoff atmosphere to earn him the Smooches Bro player of the game in that one. Matt Brash was clean in this one. Edward Bizardo was clean in this one. And then you think you have a good chance to maybe not have to use some other of your leverage arms where you have an 8-1 lead at this point. 8-1 lead heading into the bottom of the 9th inning. Cal Raleigh, obviously the story behind this, and the one that is a very cool one, hits a home run to a man named Jamison Turner wearing a Cal Dump 61 here shirt. And he just happens to catch it. I mean, it bounced in the bullpen and then he got it, but still an amazing moment for him, one that he's never going to forget. And immediately you tweeted it, rips off his shirt that says then the one underneath it, Dump 62 here, which is cool. Just like an awesome moment for him. He got to meet Cal. He was interviewed on MLB Network. An 8-1 lead heading into the bottom of the 9th. And in enters Colton's favorite Mariner of the last of this century, probably. Colton's favorite Mariner, Caleb Ferguson. It's you, baby. You get to talk about it.
Thanks so much for that baton pass. Thank you. Really left me in a good spot. Caleb Ferguson, bro. That's where the Tigers figured it out. They figured it out versus Ferguson. They had the momentum going in that inning versus Ferguson. Thankfully, Andres Munoz was able to shut the door and the Mariners were able to win that game, but that carried over into game 2 in my opinion. Like the offense for the Tigers looked like a kind of a brand new offense. Game 4. Yeah. Yeah,
Game
game
2 in
4.
Detroit. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. That offense carried over into that game, and we saw kind of an offensive explosion for the Tigers in that game as well. I think there could be something to it. And I've talked about it a lot in like some post-game streams and whatnot. The more that the Tigers offense sees this Mariners pitching staff, the better they're going to be against this Mariners pitching staff, and vice versa. The more the Mariners see this Tigers pitching staff, the same thing. It's just it yeah, we're talking about the positive game here. We're just so on the emotions of game 4.
Mm-hmm.
This was a good game. Eugenio Suarez with a home run,
Yep.
JP with a home run, Cal Raleigh, you already mentioned, with a home run. Just a pretty good showing from a lot of these guys. Randy 2 for 5, Cal 2 for 4 with 3 RBI. Polanco had a walk in there. Gino 1 for 3. 2 for 2 for JP Crawford with a walk in there as well. So, and a sacrifice fly as well. Just an all around a solid game for the Mariners. Logan was fantastic, and that's what you needed the offense to do. You needed the offense to go in to Detroit and show up because honestly, the games in Seattle, 3-2, 3-2, it really didn't feel like that was going to be the case in Detroit. Now, can that be a case again in Seattle? Certainly. But man, just coming off of the high that was game one and then game three, and then in game four, the Mariners get off to a hot start. They have a 3-0 lead going into the bottom of the fifth inning, Joe, and it all fell apart.
The wheels fell off completely. We talked about the expectations for Bryce Miller, it was announced that he would start game four. We talked about the expectations for him is 3 innings or 4 innings. And if he's cruising, he's pitching well, you can try and extend that a little bit. And he was cruising, admittedly. Through 4 innings, he was at like 44 pitches. Bryce was looking incredible. There was a couple moments of hard contact, but a nice double play fielded by Josh Naylor early on in this game was a quick turnaround inning for Bryce at that point, which could have led to maybe earlier runs being scored for the Tigers here. A leadoff hit to start, or maybe not to start the inning. I don't remember exactly because that was a long time ago, a lot of emotions ago. Maybe it was McKinstry, Dingler, and then Parker Meadows were due up. That doesn't seem right because I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Bryce pitched 4 1/3, and then he gets subbed out after that because he gives up a hit. And beyond that is where you see the box score tell a lot of the story. And to the Mariners' credit, at the early stage of this game, you get Casey Mize out after 3. You don't allow Tyler Holton to record an out. It's after the 5th inning, the team just kind of checked out. They got deflated after giving up the lead and allowing a tie ball game to start from the 6th inning on, because Gabe Spire, with some inherited runners, pitches 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 2 earned, 1 walk, and just can't have it. And every single iteration of this bullpen, multiple times throughout this season, I don't think going to Gabe Spire in that situation where they're pinch hitting Jahmai Jones for Parker Meadows, that's not a bad situation. That's I think the right call. Sure, you could argue that George Kirby could have gone in there. You could have gone to Emerson Hancock, another guy that can give you length out of the pen. Regardless, Gabe Spire coming into the 8-9-1 spot where Kerry Carpenter is going to face Gabe Spire more than likely if he doesn't get out, 2 clean outs, and then Gabe can go back out there in the next inning and face Kerry to start off the next inning if he does record those outs. It just didn't happen that way for Gabe, and then he does go out there to start the following inning to face Riley Green, and that was likely his last batter, and unfortunately it ended up being a go-ahead home run for the Tigers, and they would not look back after that. It was 9 unanswered for the Tigers in this one. Edward Brizardo comes in next, 1 inning, 4 hits, 3 earned. Not good. It's just not the Edward Brizardo that we've seen. It's not the Gabe Spire that we've seen all year. Going to those guys in those moments have been Dan's bread and butter, and they've worked 9 times out of 10. This just happens to be that one time where it doesn't, and it stings because it matters all that much more in a moment like this, and then the offense isn't able to get anything going. Maybe there's a walk from Victor, nothing happens. You get a Josh Naylor leadoff single in the top of the 9th, immediately an Eugenio Suarez double play. Like, the vibe and momentum shift completely went opposite of the Mariners' favor once the game was tied up in the bottom of the 5th inning.
Yeah, again, I do think that going to Gabe was the right move here. I think that making sure that you got him in there to face Kerry Carpenter was the right move. And I can understand why maybe people wanted Bryce to stay in there for Parker Meadows, so that they wouldn't go to Jahmai Jones. But honestly, if you're the bullpen for the Mariners this one, you got to delete it. You got to delete everything that happened in this game going into game 5. But first, a word from our sponsor, Delete Me.
Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. The New York Times Wirecutter has named Delete Me their top pick for data removal services. And as someone with an active online presence, privacy is very important to me. I don't want strangers having data about me that I don't even know that might be out there. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT, that's HIT, at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/hit and enter code HIT, that's HIT, at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/hit, code HIT.
Now, whether or not Dan would delete the decision that he had to bring in Gabe Spire, I mean, we'll never know. Again, I think it was the right move. Joe and I talked about it on the live stream, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're wrong. But again, Gabe and Bizzardo have been so damn good for you all year long. I don't think this is on Dan. And a lot of people in stream disagreed with that. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this are going to disagree with that. I don't blame Dan for this loss. I blame one of the worst outings of the year from both Bizzardo and Spire.
Yeah.
And I blame, bases loaded, no outs after Tyler Holt was in there, only scoring one. Like, you have to pile on there. You had to. And they only scored one with the bases loaded and no outs. Three runs is not going to score you, or it's not going to win you a lot of ball games. What's the average? What was the average for MLB this year? 5 a game? 4 a game? Something like that?
3 runs.
It wasn't 3.
3 runs wins you the first 2 games, though.
That is true. That is true.
Ironically,
in Seattle.
Enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just overall, I mean, these teams are pretty evenly matched. And in my opinion, the Mariners have so much more talent than the Tigers do. But the gritty kitties, I mean, you know what? They fight back. And that's what they did. And unfortunately for the Mariners, the Mariners punch first, the Tigers punch last, and the Mariners couldn't get up off the mat. It's exactly what I said during the stream. And it's just, yeah, you have to keep your foot on the gas. And the Mariners did not do that in game 4 like they did in game 1 and game 3 they did. Yeah. They kept their foot kind of on the gas, but in game 4, it's like everybody checked out all at the same time.
And at the time, like when the double play happened and Naylor scored, where you get only 1 run out of that bases loaded situation, at the time in the existing game script, we're like, yeah, it's not great, but at least you get a run out of that situation. Because there have been times where the Mariners don't score runs with the bases loaded, no outs. Like it's happened plenty of times. We all know those situations. It's literally just, it boils down to the bullpen not executing. And I think Spire and Bizzardo specifically, Vargas saw time in this game too. And I mean, it's just a moot point in that situation when Vargas was pitching, in my opinion. But if you were to ask Gabe Spire and Edward Bizzardo, they'd say, yeah, we lost this game. Like the rest of the team just has to pick them up going to the next game. And you could argue also, like, for Dan, like, is pinch hitting Mitch Garver for Dom in the 4th inning in that situation necessary? Like, could Dom have walked in the same fashion that Mitch Garver did? I don't know. It's a bunch of what ifs. And I know a lot of people would have liked to see Dom late in this game when Rayleigh gets substituted in, but when the pitching staff gives up 9 runs, 7 or I guess 2 to Bryce that were like inherited runs from Gabe Spire, but you could look at Gabe Spire and Edward Bizzardo and say that they gave up 7 runs in this game. When 2 of your top 4 relievers are doing that, you're not going to win many ball games. And that, like you mentioned, for the Caleb Ferguson outing, then this game specifically, it's a lot of momentum for the Tigers, and that is very much so reflected over on FanDuel with the money lines for the existing current game slate, where it's Tarik Skubal versus, Mariners haven't announced it yet, but the Tigers are the favorites over on FanDuel right now at -134 to take this game 5 in Seattle. Mariners are at +114. Over under set at 5.5. They think this is going to be a stingy game when it comes to run scoring opportunities. And that was the case in both games in Seattle. Both games were 5-run games. One goes in the favor of the Tigers. One goes in the favor of the Mariners. Are we going to see a legacy polo game again in this one? To hit a home run, I'll tell you this. He's got the second best odds on the Mariners to hit a home run. He's at +560. Obviously, the dumper himself, Cal Raleigh, at +340 there. Not many odds and lines are available currently for this game since we're recording this Wednesday right after the game. So, like, keep that in mind as far as what's available to you. There was a ton pregame for, game 4 in Detroit. And so there's a lot more available once, the announcement of the starter happens and like just general player props are put out there. I question, when the starter is announced, do you think the odds will shift in either way?
For one thing specifically, though, yes. Otherwise, no. I think it doesn't matter who the starter is. You are going to be at a disadvantage with Skubal on the mound for the Tigers, no matter what.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the overall line changes. I will say, however, if George Kirby, which is kind of who we expect to be announced to start this game, if he is announced as the starter, I think that Kerry Carpenter's numbers to hit a home run go up. And
Yeah.
he might even be minus money to hit a home run versus George Kirby. I mean, let's be honest. So I think that Carpenter takes over that top spot. And I mean, we'll have to wait and see till Friday, but I think he takes over that top spot versus George Kirby. Other than that, though, I think that the lines kind of stay right where they are. With that being said, and we all know it, we've all talked about it quite a bit. The Mariners have beat Skubal 3 times this year. Like, it has been talked about ad nauseum over the past, week or so. Hey, someone once said, only a fool would bet against the Mariners. Only a fool. So if you're over there on FanDuel and you're a fool, you're betting against the Mariners. Bet responsibly. This is not betting advice. Don't take betting advice from me. I don't know what I'm doing.
Not gambling advice.
Not gambling advice, by the way. But I don't know. Someone said only a fool would bet against the Mariners, Joe. But assuming that it is George Kirby in Game 5, I think everybody's available. I don't care who you are. You're available. And I think that you could go George for a few, Luis for a few if you have to. Like, everybody should be good to go because it's all hands on deck. Because either you move on and you're tired, or you're out and you're done. Those are the two options. Like it's a 1-game playoff. It's exactly what this is now. And the Mariners have their backs against the walls, but so do the Tigers. And, the Tigers would there's nobody the Tigers would feel more confident in turning to than Tarik Skubal, and their backs are against the walls. And frankly, I don't know if there's anybody on the team that I would feel more confident in turning to with backs against the walls than the Mariners pitching staff as a whole. The Mariners have a much better pitching staff, in my opinion. They didn't show up in Game 4. Well, 2 of them didn't.
Yeah. 3 of them didn't.
But
the third one shouldn't have shown up regardless. But
yeah, he never does.
Yeah.
But I think, if you have to, I don't even care. If you have to go to Logan Gilbert, I don't care. Sure, do it for an inning. Do it. It doesn't matter to me.
I think he could be available. Like, Crochet was walking out to the bullpen in the wild card series against the Yankees after throwing 117 pitches like 2 days prior. Like, people have to be available. We talked about it lightly about a lefty opener or an opener of some sort for the Mariners in this one. If it is George Kirby that is who we're expecting to start this game, I really think that they might try and limit the opportunity for Kerry Carpenter to face him. I don't know if it's Caleb Ferguson. I don't know if it's Gabe Spire to start the game, or Carlos Vargas, who coming into this or on the season in 2025 had like a 206 batting average versus left-handed batters, right? You're not going to use one of your big leverage arms, I don't think, as an opener. But if we are under the impression that it's just the starter who has had the most rest, which is George Kirby, of the existing pitchers on this staff, it's not going to be Bryan Woo. Do not expect Bryan Woo to be added from the taxi squad, someone to go on the injured list. I would let's
talk about it.
It's not going to happen.
It doesn't matter. That's what people are going to be saying in the comments. Let's talk about it.
That's what I'm telling them right now. It's not happening. And it's not the fact that I don't want it to happen. It's not the fact that I don't think that that's a better option for 5 out of the 8 pitchers in the Mariners bullpen right now. It's simply and very plainly not going to happen. What is the percentage chance that you would give that Bryan Woo enters the game on Friday to pitch?
I'd say probably like a 25% chance.
No shot. I think it's less than 5. I think it's less than 5%.
Why?
What do you mean why? He was taking like dry like motions on the mound before Game 3. Like, I don't even know if it was off the mound. Like, he is not pitching. He's not throwing. I know that this is
I
the
mean,
moment that you need to have a situation like that where people rise to the occasion or whatever. But like, if he's physically not throwing a baseball, maybe he can't right now. And if he can't do that, he's not pitching in a game with your season on the line.
if he can't do that right now, then we should have been told that a week ago.
Well, sure. But the last thing
We
that
should
we
have been told
saw,
the severity.
well, yeah, I know that. But I'm just saying, like, from what we've seen out of Divish, what he said about Brian Wu, nothing would indicate to me that he would pitch in game 5. I get that it's your backs are against the wall. Like, you have to win this game or your season is done. And that's what you're saying. Like, you're either tired or you're going home. But Brian Wu took a few dry reps off the bullpen mound, simulating his delivery and arm action, but didn't throw off the mound pregame. Is the last thing that he said Divish did yesterday. I don't see it. I like a 25% mate, like, and again, I would happily be wrong in this scenario. Happily. Because Brian Wu does give you a better chance of winning this game. 1000%. Not even 100%, Jeffrey. 1000%. All right. But I don't see it as a reasonable thing to expect. And I know that that's not what that's not what you're proposing, but that's where my head is at as far as my expectations for this game is we're not seeing Brian Wu, so I shouldn't think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect to see Brian Wu at all. It would be asinine, in my opinion. But sometimes when you're in a situation like this, you just got to do the asinine. Straight up, you just got to do the things that no one's expecting. And if you can turn the ball over to Brian Wu, he's got a slow heartbeat. I'm not saying he goes out there and throws 90 pitches. You know, he throws 30. Give him 2 innings. You know, great. And I think that's fine. Now, of course, there's some roster moves that would have to happen. Someone would have to go on the injured list, and that gets a little is it a phantom IL? That gets a little weird in terms of just ruling in general.
Yeah.
Again, I highly doubt that it'll happen. But the possibility is there where if the Mariners feel like that is their best chance to win, then they should do it. I don't care. They should do it because Brian Woo's going to have all off season to rest whatever issue he's got going on right now. And if it is so severe that he can't even throw a baseball, then we should have been told that a week ago, and we should not be allowed to have this expectation or the chance of this happening in the first place. Like I don't understand why they wouldn't tell us, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I don't know. It's an interesting situation. Again, I'm pretty sure he's not going to pitch. I think it'll be George Kirby. I think it'll be Luis Castillo. Maybe Logan if you need him. Bryce if you need him. But yeah, the fact of the matter is the biggest thing you have to do is get to Tarik Skubal. Like that's what you have to do. And you just got to get his pitch count up. You got to get Tarik Skubal out of the game. They did not do that the last time they faced him. Thankfully, the Mariners pitching staff was able to take care of the Tigers in that, though.
Yeah, I mean, Jorge Polanco came up big, 2 solo home runs in that one off of Skubal. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned, 9 strikeouts was his line. Over on FanDuel's strikeouts were set at 8.5, so they know what they're doing, cooking up lines. I'm looking at starters on specific days of rest. So George Kirby would be pitching on 6 days rest, correct? Because he pitched on Saturday. Mm-hmm. In 2025, he pitched twice on 6 days rest and has an 8.38 ERA over 9 2/3. Luis Castillo, 5 days rest, correct?
Yep.
A 3.8 ERA in 15 starts. It's uncommon that you're going to get that many days of rest. Like George pitching on 6 days rest, it's not likely. There's only 2 moments. There's only a 2 sample size in 2025 specifically. I'm going to see on his career 6 days rest plus a 3.87 ERA over his career. So would you feel more confident with Luis for 4, a lefty whenever Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green are up, and then George for 2? George for 3, like something like that? Or is it you start with an opener? I don't know. Every single time I bring up the opener, I hate it because of the bullpen makeup for the Mariners right now, where I don't trust anyone that's not Munoz, Brash, and I would say Spire and Bizzardo, but this last game does not inspire much confidence to have faith in them. Of course, it is a what have you done for me lately situation, no discredit to Spire and Bizzardo for their entire season. It's just today was, and what we watched an hour ago was pitiful. And I think I'm more in line with Castillo on normal rest to start the game, actually. I think that might make a more of... It's a coin flip for me. I don't know. Seeing the game's 6+ days rest ERA for George on the season, like it's only 2 outings. Is that going to play a factor into it, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think they're both going to pitch either way. And personally, I think because of his pitch mix, George is more well equipped to face the lefties, even though he sucks against Kerry Carpenter. I think that he's more well equipped to face the lefties than Luis Castillo is, simply because George has that splitter. Yeah, Luis has that changeup, but that's something he's kind of strayed away from in recent years. It used to be his best pitch, but he stopped throwing it, and for quite some time. And I think that for whatever reason, the Mariners don't feel like that's a pitch he needs to throw as often as he did when he was with Cincinnati. And that's a really good out pitch versus left-handed hitters, plain and simple. Now, George with the knuckle curve, whereas, Luis with the slider, like, I don't know. And Luis has stepped up plenty of times in big moments, and so has George at this point with the Mariners. Both guys have stepped up for the Mariners in big moments. So I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer, because I think they both end up pitching in this game either way.
Yeah.
It's just who starts it. I don't think they go with an opener. I don't see that happening. I think they'll just go with a normal starter.
I think it would have only been applicable in this game to allow Bryce to have one less opportunity to face Kerry, right? Is the idea. And AJ Hinch countered the Mariners pitching staff, like in the way that forcing Dan Wilson's hand in games 3 and 4 by moving Carpenter into the leadoff spot. Yeah, like it's all a bunch of moves and counter moves. I think you said it on stream, or maybe just in general, like you think Dan Wilson outmanaged Hinch. Basically, both wins for both teams. I think the manager the advantage stemmed pretty heavily. Of course, execution is important, but in games 2 and 3, Dan Wilson outmanaged AJ Hinch, I think. And more so game 1 than game 4, because the Tigers offense really just unleashed. You could say the Jahmai Jones pinch hit is like the turning point for them, where it like kind of like the floodgates opened, but it's going to come down to game 5 on Friday, either at 1:00, or if the Blue Jays happen to win and clinch, it'll be 5:00. So it's either a day game on Friday in Seattle, or it'll be an evening game. And I don't know what benefits the Mariners more specifically. All I know is the Mariners are 51-30 in the regular season at home. Obviously 1-1 this postseason so far. You have to get it done. And the Mariners have done it plenty of times at home. Just do it one more time for me.
One time for the one time.
One time for the one time. Real Mariners stand up.
Where would you describe your hope levels right now on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being, you're like, yeah, this is going to happen. And 1 being, nah, they're done.
It's hard to say, because I've talked about the way I watch the game. Every single time I turn on the game, or I'm able to watch it, I'm expecting the outcome. The reason why I'm watching the game is because I'm expecting them to win. I'm wanting them to win. I'm like hoping and thinking, and maybe it's a level of manifestation. That's why I'm watching the game. I don't watch them when they play good opponents thinking that they're going to lose or expecting them to lose. It's a tough matchup. Have they done it before? 3 times, in fact. Have they done it in other situations before where they've completely let me down and they've lost a game that I knew that they should win? Of course. And that's the beauty of the sport. My hope level, I mean, it's honestly about as much of a 50-50. It's a wash, I think, at this point, because history tells you and points you in a couple of the directions that the Mariners can beat Tarik Skubal in Seattle. They've done it 3 times this season. They've beat him, or they've done it twice
in Seattle, yeah.
Twice in Seattle, and they've done it total 3 times. They have one of the best records at home in all of baseball. Plain and simple. You have an advantage. You have the crowd behind you. But of course, it's Tarik Skubal. Are you really rolling the dice, gambling in that situation, having to face him a fourth time and needing to beat him a fourth time. It's kind of just a wash for me. I know that's a lame answer, but that's where if I had to lean one way, it's probably on the pessimistic side given what we just watched. If ask me tomorrow and it might be a different story of like where my head's at. I imagine you might be on the, like, if I had to like scale it, like 65% pessimistic for like 35 optimistic.
Yeah.
Somewhere in
So
there.
me, the way that I watch the games is very different. Because me, just as a person, I always expect the worst case scenario, no matter what, about everything. Everything. Maybe I got some issues. I don't know. But I just expect the worst case scenario. And as of right now, this is kind of worst case scenario. Going into game 5, having to face Skubal, backs against the wall. You get to come back home, which is cool. That's fun. And if you get to move on, you get to do it at home, which is awesome. That's cool. But yeah, I'd say I'm probably, I'd even raise it a little bit more and say I'm 70-30, like 70% pessimistic, like 30% optimistic as to the way the game is going to go on Friday, because I guess the way I look at it is, and a lot of people in chat have been saying this, like, can't be disappointed if you never had expectations, and that's unfortunate. Unfortunately, that's true. And I don't want, you can never expect that you're going to be able to beat Tarik Skubal. He is that good. He is that good at the game of baseball. But at the same time, dude went to school in Seattle. Maybe he wants to throw us a bone. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like,
Let's be real now.
yeah, man. It's just, I was saying all week, I don't want to play game 5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to go to 5 because you knew what was coming if you went into game 5, and that is a massive disadvantage for you. But like you just mentioned, being at home with the home crowd, how good the Mariners have been at home, that's an advantage in their favor. So it's a pros and cons list. Like if you had to face Skubal in Detroit for game 5, I would say, yeah, you're cooked. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
But because the Mariners are back home, I feel like there's a chance. And maybe that's copium. I don't know. It was a rough day. It was a rough watch today, and I'm really bummed about the way it played out. But it all comes down to this, man. It all comes down to this one final game, and you either move on, or this season might go down as a disappointment. Like, I think that if you can make it to the championship series, I would say that's a successful season. If you get knocked out versus the Tigers in the division series, I might label this season a disappointment, but that's something that we can talk about after it's all said and done. For now, though, we appreciate you guys watching episode 237 of the Hit It Here podcast presented by FanDuel, and go Mariners.